Welcome back. After this week's big primaries, the race for Georgia governor is taking shape, at least on one side of the ticket. On Tuesday, former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms secured the Democratic nomination after winning more than 50%, avoiding a runoff. But her opponent in November is still up in the air, with Republican Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones and billionaire Rick Jackson advancing to a June runoff. Joining me now is former mayor of Atlanta and Democratic nominee for Georgia governor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So you won your primary outright. You avoided a runoff. As you know, though, Georgia has not elected a Democratic governor in more than 2 decades. You don't know who your opponent's going to be yet, but what is your strategy to flip that seat?
Well, we did win outright, winning, I believe, 158 of the 159 counties in the state. And we're going to keep taking our message directly to the voters across this state. I've been around this state multiple times over the course of the last year during this campaign. We've been in rural communities, urban cities, just speaking directly to people about what they care about. And what we are hearing repeatedly is that the chaos coming out of Washington, D.C. is making their lives more difficult. This cost of living conversation comes up in every community. And then we've not expanded Medicaid in Georgia. So you add that to the list of problems that we have in terms of rural hospitals that have closed across this state. And then those perennial issues around education. We're still in the bottom half in education in this country. So there are a lot of challenges facing this state, but people have been very responsive to our plans to help make their lives better.
You know, Mayor, in recent weeks, we have seen the power of President Trump's endorsement in this primary season. You're talking about the president now, but how do you counter that if the president does decide to invest resources and political capital in this race?
Well, you know, the president is actually doing a lot of work for us with the chaos that he is bringing to Georgia. It speaks for itself, and no amount of money and resources that are spent on the Republican side are going to counter what people are experiencing day to day. If you think about the Republican side in the state right now, I believe they're close to 100 million that they've already put in their personal fortunes, and Democrats still turned out in much higher numbers, very quietly, but very deliberately focused on making sure that their voices are reflected in their vote. And I truly believe that's a preview for what we can expect in November.
I have to ask you about this big news for Democrats today. As you know, the DNC's autopsy report of the 2024 election was released today. In it, it says, and I'm going to read you a little section of it, Democratic candidates have proven incapable of projecting strength, unity, and leadership, and voters have drifted away. You, of course, served under the Biden administration. I wonder if you feel like that was a fair assessment.
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to read the report, but I can tell you that as I'm talking directly to voters, what they are saying repeatedly is they just want to know how casting a vote, and that's for anyone, regardless of the party, how that's going to make a difference in their lives. So I believe that's probably a challenge that both parties are experiencing, because people are saying, I'm showing up to vote and I don't see that my community is getting any better. And as I'm moving around the state, I'm talking, but most importantly, I'm listening. And what I am hearing repeatedly is that people want their lives to be more stable. They want it to be more predictable in terms of whether or not they'll be able to pay for housing or have to make a choice between putting food on their table or putting gas in their car. Those are the conversations that I'm having. So I know that when we talk directly to people, listen to them, and then offer solutions for many other challenges, then I think it works, it bodes well for us.
I know you haven't read the report yet. I want to read you a little bit more of what it has to say. It says that the Biden White House did not do enough to improve Vice President Harris's standing with the public way before the candidate switch. Again, you actually served in the Biden White House. Is that what you saw, Mayor Lance Bottoms?
You know, I can't speak to the politics of it. My service was as senior advisor for public engagement. I can just tell you my personal experience, and my charge was to work with both the president and Vice President Harris to make sure that we were engaging a cross section of people across the country. So, of course, when you served, at least under the Biden administration, there was a separation between the politics and the work that we did inside the White House. But my experience was that, you know, we worked as a cohesive team to be able to deliver for people and engage people.
Well, one big picture point that the report makes is that Vice President Harris didn't attack President Trump early on in her campaign. So let me ask you big picture. What should Democrats, what should candidates like yourself learn from that?
Well, we know elections are about the future. So the biggest lesson with any campaign, if you are a smart candidate, you take a look at what worked well, you build from there, and those things that could have been done better, then you do better. I know right now Donald Trump is a central reason that people feel that their families don't have the financial stability that they need. And that their lives are more challenging right now. So he's going to be a topic of conversation through the midterms. I served as mayor of Atlanta under the first Trump administration, and it's in keeping with the uncertainty that he brings to the people of Georgia. So, you know, I can't speak to what the strategy was just in terms of messaging previously, but I can tell you he comes up very organically as we're moving around the state. And I would imagine that's the experience of anybody who's running for office right now.
And just to follow up with you, to what extent do you plan to focus on President Trump and the Trump agenda? Will that be a centerpiece of your campaign, Mayor?
Well, the centerpiece is going to be, again, just making sure I'm talking to people about how I will deliver for them. But a huge part of that is about how you push back against Donald Trump and, again, the chaos that he brings to people across his country. Right here in Georgia, over $200 million has been cut from our Department of Education. We've seen these cuts at the CDC that trickle directly into our public health clinics and our other entities that help support rural health care across this country. We've seen cuts to Veterans Affairs, and the list goes on. So it's difficult to campaign in Georgia without bringing up Trump, because he's the source of a lot of the challenges that we are facing, and the MAGA wing of this Republican Party in the state of Georgia. His endorsed candidate, who is now in a runoff, was an election denier, a huge supporter of Trump and his policies. And the person he's facing is a billionaire who's trying to curry favor with Trump. So I would imagine he's going to come up quite a bit.
Let me ask you, because you are running for governor, so you thereby have an interest in the future of the Democratic Party overall. And the big question in the wake of this report being released, should Vice President Harris run for president again in 2028? Do you think the former vice president should run for president again in 2028? Is she the strongest candidate?
Listen, I have a lot of respect for Vice President Harris, but I am focused on my race. I can't think toward 2028 right now. I'm trying to get through November in Georgia, and then we'll all turn our attention to the presidential. But I'm focused on the people of Georgia and the race that's in front of me right now, and that's my election as governor in November.
All right. Well, we're going to be covering your race very closely, including when you do have a candidate that you'll be running against. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or watch live on our YouTube channel.